Welcome to Selling Tri-Cities, where we are selling more than homes. This project was created to share our love and passion for this beautiful part of the country that we are lucky enough to call home. We want to showcase the small businesses, the entrepreneurs, and the beauty that makes the Appalachian Highlands one of the most desirable markets in the nation. But most importantly, we want to introduce you to the people that make this area such a wonderful place to live. So join us as we sell you on our love for the Tri-Cities.
Even when I had a place to live, I didn't necessarily have like shelves or anything like that, so I just started stacking books. And then I told myself, like, how do I predict the pattern? And it was a certain amount of books that I had. Sometimes it wasn't just the books, it was the actual height, which is kind of trippy, but for every height that I got to, I obtained a client. So then I would start another stack.
Gotcha.
So I started going around the room and realizing that with each stack I had a client. So then I started doing my budget. How much money do I need to make? That determined how many stacks.
Gotcha. That's awesome, man. Yeah. Welcome to another episode of Selling Tri-Cities. I'm Gregg Pechmann with my co-host today, Aubrey. Usually she's the one doing the intro. With my good friend Shawn Dunn of Delphi Fitness. Shawn, how you doing, buddy?
Awesome. Thank you for having me.
Good. Yeah, we're so happy. Shawn's helped me tremendously over many years, and he's the only one I really trust in this area when it comes to fitness and personal trainer. He's absolutely incredible. So thank you for being on the show today.
Appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's dive into, we always want to talk about how you got here, right? So let's talk about, you were like in the military, right? So you want to talk a little bit about that and how you came to this point?
Marine Corps, 4 years. That's where I kind of fell in love with the growth mindset, and the more physically active and mentally active you are, that's just basically how you get rewarded. So, just really kind of fell into that, adopted that, grew with that. As I got out, just kind of kept up with fitness, and, to be honest, I had health issues. So I got diagnosed with Crohn's when I was really young. Oddly enough, I never suffered from it when I was in the Marine Corps. But the minute that I got out, and I'm sure there's reasons behind that, but once I got out, just seemed like it hit me pretty much like every month. I wasn't financially in a situation to afford the medication, kind of get the specialties involved. So what I knew how to do was read. I wasn't very good at it. I could read a line and fall asleep, but you do something long enough, you do well.
Yeah.
You do well. Read enough books that kept putting me on a path that led me to another path, to another path, to another book. And then next thing I know, I started applying some of those things in myself, and then lo and behold, started feeling better. Then I started getting questions, when people start recognizing that you used to kind of be a little run down and maybe not look so great, and then you start portraying the opposite. People start asking questions, and one thing led to another. I got told that I could make money at just running my mouth. I thought that was killer. I like doing that.
He doesn't yell at you.
How do I get into that?
He's actually encouraging. He's telling you the science behind it. I'll tell you more. I'll talk more about that.
Absolutely. So that was neat, So I just kind of dove into somebody else's business that already had training going, and once again, I fell in love with the people. Once and foremost, once I started realizing that your passion and your purpose can become a business, that's when I got the idea of just starting my own. I think if you go through the history, as far as getting your business license, you'll see that I've changed my business name so many times. We finalized Delphi Fitness, and long story short, it's just a place in ancient Greece that people from all over the world would travel to just to ask a single question. So what I wanted out of that situation is I wanted to be held so accountable that not to be arrogant, to think that I do know everything, but to be held accountable to constantly pursue that.
So here's the thing, when I, talking to you and training with you and everything else, what really impressed me is that your knowledge, obviously of the body, but the mind, the spirit. And he's not one of these guys where you're just yelling at him and say, you could do 5 more and this and that. He actually kind of whispers in your ear, this is why you're doing it, this is what's happening inside you, and everything else. And that actually is a lot more motivating than somebody screaming at you. So it's a completely different take that I'm used to and from personal trainers before.
Awesome.
So.
I think one of my favorite things about your story is the fact how much research you did and how you never stopped. You continue to be hungry about finding answers. I think there's a lot of professionals in any industry, but especially in yours, who okay, well, I know how to lift weights and I know how to have proper form, or I know how to do X, Y, and Z. And so I think that that's all that they need to do. I think really to serve your clients better, for you to be able to really understand like the wellness and like health side of things too, and how that impacts each of your clients, like different things they might be struggling with. And I love that you are willing to put in the research and the work to find out how you can better serve each of them individually.
I think, like, in all fairness, like, every profession has a certain level of blinders, you know, and when you get into the medical field, there's a lot of protocols that you have to follow, you know, and I'm fortunate in a sense that I don't necessarily have to wear those blinders. You know, my protocol is just gathering information, applying that information to myself first, you know, and you know, I'm blessed in the sense to have the kind of clients that I do, because there's a lot of trust, you know. I'm an attacher, you know, so I want to make people happy. So in order to do that, like, I need to be correct, I need to be right. So like, that's kind of where the passion comes in. In my field, it's the same way, you know, like, you get the title of a trainer, but, you know, to be honest with you, I prefer to be called a coach.
Yep.
You know, I think there's a lot more investment in myself that's required, as well as how I dissolve myself in investing on my clients. I think that's a huge difference. But yeah, you know, like, there's something that Eddie Pinero says all the time. You want to be able to provide your clients with the permission to write their own permission slip as well as sign it. You know, to be their own architect as well as the pieces to design their own life. You know, and to be the wind as also simultaneously be the sail that allows the movement of their life to go forward.
You know what was good too, I had an injury, you know, some people know about a year ago or so, and when we started working out, even when I had the stupid machine in my leg and had the backpack on and everything else.
Did you ever give that back?
Yes, I burned it in the backyard, but that thing actually saved me quite a bit, but it was annoying as hell because I wake me up 2, 3 in the morning. That's a whole nother video. But when we worked out, it's how we shift gears right away, you know, and then me getting older, even though I'm 31, no, I'm 51, but when you get older, you know, changing the routine and changing the exercise, changing to preserve your joints, and you let, you know, all that stuff, ligaments and stuff like that. So speak to that when you get with a client, and then as they start moving down the pathway of getting older and so forth, how you can adjust so quickly and really give them the knowledge. Not even saying, okay, you got to do this, but why you have to do this now, you know?
But every person's a puzzle, you know, and I think you got to take the time to not just research, but you got to get face to face with everybody, you know, and you got to create trust, you know, because once you create trust, you get a lot more information and lower the wall. The thing that I probably say on repeat all the time is we're literally an accumulation of potential.
Yeah.
Like, literally. There's nothing that you can't do, there's nothing you can't become, you know. And I don't know how far we can speak to it on this show as far as like belief systems, but, you know, I believe that there's a creator that made us for a reason. You know, I feel like that we're made on purpose, and I feel like there's nothing that could ever really hold us still except for ourselves.
So talk to me a little bit more about Delphi, though, because I know it's a little bit different than your typical, you know, coach or personal trainer type of situation. I'm not a gym or brick and mortar, so tell us a little bit about the business itself, and then how you guys kind of serve your clients.
I'm an independent contractor. I work at a great facility called I Train Fitness, 2 awesome owners. We've once again developed a great relationship with them, which has really catapulted our success as independent contractors. And when I say we, I can't leave out my better half, you know, my fiance Heather, which we'll get married in October 21st.
I got the invite, so am I the best man, or that's what? No, just guys. I'm joking.
Once she came to the business, I mean, quite honestly, like it basically tenfolded.
Yeah.
She brings an asset to the table that's just remarkable. Not just because she's the female version of myself, but I mean, like, she's so intelligent. Her marketing skills. She's basically my HR department. She's like the Spike Lee of my business. She writes it, she produces it, she stars in it. I just get to stand next to her while she gets the award.
That's it.
But
That's the best place
You're
to
such
be.
a smart man.
So compliant, Shawn.
we're on camera. She's gonna watch this. Most importantly, I know my mom's watching this right now.
Yeah, thank
Has
you, Mom.
coached me through this process. The biggest difference between, say, like what we do and what other people do, and I don't like to really compare because I think everybody offers something, you know, but I feel like what highlights us is that we do literally form relationships with all of our people. So like when you see the turnover that most trainers have, you know, I feel like our coaching business, our average person's like 3 years. You know, I don't need 40 plus clients like I used to have because my priorities are different.
Yep.
You know, it used to be just about making money, you know, now it's about building relationships, you know, and as I get older, it's about seeing what you can do to catapult somebody else's. I have a hard time saying that I just want to be happy in life. Like I used to say that all the time, but I heard somebody say the other day that the ultimate goal is to be joyful. And I didn't know what that meant.
Yep.
You know, I was pretty sure with the life that I had, you know, that I never experienced it, at least in the way that I wanted to, and it was with longevity. But in that moment, it seemed like time stood still.
Yeah.
You know, and I just fell in love with that feeling. So in my mindset, I was just like, man, like, how do I turn this into a business? So even though my research, like if you go on my library in my house, you'll see that I have a lot of books on nutrition. I got a lot of books on exercise and just anything that my field would require. But I'd say 90% of my books are just listening to other people talk about life and their experiences. And I fell in love with talking about that. I fell in love hearing people talk about that. So our training sessions are basically confirmations of our relationship. We're basically talking to each other about life, and we just happen to include nutrition and movement.
After I'm doing like the 18 set, and I'm cursing underneath my breath. But no, I'm joking. It's really truly is that it's encouragement, and you know we've talked about this before too. I mean, exercise, anything is it's all mindset, right? I mean, if you don't get that and don't have the right mindset, you can't take the next step, and it's how you approach it. When you started your business, or you said, okay, this is gonna be business, and now you're here, what's been the hardest thing to put in place, you know, during that time? Whether it's the first step, second step, third step, what's been the hardest thing to say, okay, this is what I need to do and start building it that way?
I think it's you can't predict somebody else's success or their version of that. So I have expectations for myself. And I've been called out before that they're probably a little extreme, but keep in mind, like, I don't put a filter on possibility. So I put that pressure on myself. But I noticed in the beginning that I started to put that pressure on people that I care about. And that's not a good business model.
Yeah.
It's
like
for money.
Right.
Yeah. But, you know, the thing is it really does come down to just listening to the clients. Compliance means different things. And everybody that I have right now, I'm like so in love with, because like I've never had a roster like this before. And I think it's just because I've become a better listener and selective, you know, so it's like, I don't necessarily have the 42 people anymore, but you know, the roster that I do have, and like well makes up for it, you know, as far as like feeling purposeful. But everybody I have has a similar background, you know, that they have these big, beautiful hearts. They've done everything for everyone around them except for themselves, you know, and then they finally reached a point in their life, you know, whether responsibilities have changed or not, you know, that they want to start doing something for themselves, you know, and that they do believe in their own potential. They can't remember the last time they've been in a situation that actually helped them express that. So I feel like that's what I do. I set up all these situations, whether we call them workout routines or not, you know, where I just provide an environment, tools, and support, and I just step back and I just watch the show.
That's awesome.
So do you have like a wide variety of clients, ages, you know, goals, you know, all of that? And you?
Great question. Absolutely. So my youngest is 12.
Oh my gosh.
My oldest is late 60s. So there's differences. Right?
Just a little.
Just history alone, like when people are talking about their favorite TV shows, like some of it's nostalgic, which is awesome, because I'm a product of the 80s. I love the 80s.
Yeah.
So anything in that genre, or somebody who just has heard of anything in that genre is awesome.
Well, Aubrey's 90s, so.
2000s mostly.
You look great.
She's way younger than us. So.
Yeah, you look great. I'm gonna meet your trainer. But yeah. So it's like it's so broad. Gender, I do have males. We've talked about this quite often, but primarily are females. But you know, bear in mind, like most of my clients have been idling for themselves for so long. You know, that they're bursting for some more life and some more adventure, and they're just preparing themselves for those. You know, and most of the males that I have, it's tough. You know, the ones that I do have, I'll rave on all day long, and I'll preach on all day long. But for most guys, it's hard to be very good at something. You know, being in your mid to late 40s, early 50s, and so on, and then feel like you got to be put in a vulnerable situation. Sometimes they look at it as just starting over, and they get a little embarrassed. But, you know, it is what it is. Like, life dictates that. So I just try to remind people that have that mindset, if I see in advance that this is no different than when you started your business. You felt the exact same way, and look how successful you are right now. And now imagine if I were to remove that business from you, but not all the information and knowledge, how fast would you build your business again? It would be better.
Yeah.
So this is that situation, you know, so
Yep.
get on the floor and give me some push-ups.
He doesn't
It
say,
is true.
He
There
doesn't
is.
say it like that. He
Please.
kind of kicks me
Tell
over
me
the arms.
why push-ups would be important. It is true. There's a lot of guys that feel like you don't do. I mean, I didn't really think about it until you said it, but I mean, I could tell you out of my girlfriends how many of them have trainers, and there's probably a big handful of them.
Yeah.
And then with guys, I don't really know. I know very few that actually have, you know,
Well, I think with-
trainers, and they just kind of go into the gym. They have their own routine. They
Yeah.
do things, and they want to be bothered, or like, you know, or they don't want to accept criticism,
Sure.
or somebody telling them, you know, they could do something different or
Yeah.
better if they tweaked it. And maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's your egos. Is that the issue?
No,
And lack of being vulnerable, like you said.
It's
that's
present.
probably
It's
the-
present.
Yeah.
But, you know, like this is something that I was telling you about, Greg. Candace Yates, one of my great friends, we're putting together this idea for a podcast, and basically the theme is thoughts out loud. And the whole premise behind that is and I'm speaking to myself out loud. Sometimes, all of us, but mainly guys, you know, we have a problem of getting these great thoughts to come out verbally in a way that makes sense. And when they don't make sense, you get frustrated, you may get upset, you may overreact. I've seen your tantrums before.
I'm just worried about any thoughts coming up.
I think that's why I'm in the middle. So if you look at your life in general, I have these things that hold my life up. You know, and these are the things that I always refer back to when things just get out of sorts, or I get sad or depressed or anything like that. You know, and health is my number one. You know, and it's not because I think that's everyone's number one. You know, that's just where I found the most success. So that's where I start. You know, and I noticed that when my life's out of sorts, I can probably dive into that area of my life and see that I'm probably not doing the things that I need to do to just progress my life. You know, wealth. You know, you got to pay bills. You want to travel. Some of the greatest experiences, they cost money. You know what I mean? Relationships, and I don't mean just like your significant other, but like friends, family, things of that nature. Meeting people, talking, corresponding. You know, like a goal I made for myself that I've been applying for like the past 3 years. Once I got my confidence up a little bit, because I'm a pretty shy kid.
You?
I promise. I wasn't mama love hugger. But, you know, just approaching people, and you recognize traits in people if you don't know them already, and you just ask them to lunch, you ask them to coffee, you just pick their brain. So that's what I mean by relationships. And what you'll find is that there's so many doors that want to be open, but nobody's knocking on those doors. You know, and then the last thing is whatever your belief system is. You know, I think that's the glue that holds all those things together. And once again, whenever I'm out of sorts, it's one of those areas, you know, that seems to be out of sorts as well. And if I can just lean into that and focus on that, with all the methods that I utilize for myself, my life becomes a lot more balanced.
Yep, absolutely. So as we wrap up here, what is your goals going forward? You know, with your business, with Heather, she's part of your business, obviously, and so forth. So what's your guys' plan and going forward here next, whatever, year, 5 years? What's your vision?
Well, I think it's what I tell my clients, and it's have fun in the current thing that you're in, but don't settle on just one thing. Like really explore life. So like, as far as the training business goes, you know, obviously I want my own studio. You know, right now I have some sports specific people that I feel like are gonna do awesome. I've got a guy that's in the UFC right now who's ranked number 12 in the world.
Cool.
So he's doing quite well. He's predicted to be in the top 5 by the end of this year.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
I've got a professional boxer. You'll see him in a lot of those videos as well.
Cool.
He's number 142 right now, but keep in mind, like he's new. But new doesn't mean not talented.
Yeah.
This guy's gonna rock the world. Fitness-wise, it's just simply that. You know, it's just once again providing an environment that helps, you know, everybody that I care about, whether I know them now or people that I'm gonna know in the future. But other than that, you know, we got some short-term lease things that are going on, which that's brand new for us. You know, and that was exciting because I felt like a dum-dum with everybody sitting around the table who knew a lot more than me.
Yeah.
But, you know, once again, I went through my processes and did the reading and the researching and got up to speed enough to have a conversation. And, you know, now I feel like I'm part of the mix. I'm one of the cool kids, so that's cool. But it's what we talk about at lunch all the time. Just try to have your hands in a little bit of everything. And just make sure that when your hands come together, you're helping somebody else along the way.
Absolutely. Great advice. Great advice.
I do love how like you just have this relationship, I guess like mindset with your clients, and that trust is so important. Because I think that's one of the biggest reasons why people kind of fizzle out, why they change trainers, is because they just don't feel like their trainer has. They're just another person, just another client that's coming in, they're writing numbers down, they're telling them what to do. They don't really feel like they have their best interests at heart. So I love that. So if there's somebody who watched this and they feel like you are the guy, how do they contact you?
I would say I would love to hear that. Delphifitness.com. You'll see that, and everything is just kind of walks through the steps of how to get in contact with either one of us.
Awesome.
We also set up situations where it's not just about training, that we actually get face to face and we talk as well.
Thank you so much for coming today and just talking life, and it was very enjoyable, very insightful.
Absolutely. Thanks everybody for joining Selling Tri-Cities. I'm Gregg Pechmann with the co-host only and one-time co-host, Aubrey Tallarico. She's usually the host, and the one and only Shawn Dunn. Thanks for joining us.
Well, think about like multiple times in your life, like what made you become stagnant. Like let's say that you were sad or you were depressed in some way. I guarantee that you just stopped moving in a direction, some area of your life. So what I realized about myself, and this is really true, is when I stop moving, I become self-destructive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Many ways.
Yeah.
Many ways.
Go off the rails real quick.
And this is the thing though, it feels good sometimes to be self-destructive. So you have to realize that.
To a point.
Well, because it's easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's easy.
It's
and
easy.
You're getting
But then-
everything you wanted
but-
because there's no no in your head that's stopping you.
But then you start forming habits, and now
Absolutely.
you're building that wall to get back to where you need to get to.
Right. And because I've lived in that lifestyle probably the majority of my life, it's like I already know the predicted outcome. And then I had some success in the opposite side of that. And that's what I was talking about that was the longer sustaining feeling of what I enjoyed.
Yeah.
But it was harder to keep. So more time, more effort, more research. And you got to take those things in consideration. That's why, like when people tell me that they can't do certain things or they've tried certain things, it's not that I know why they weren't successful, but I do know the association of the feelings and how hard it can be.
Yeah.
So I don't have to come down on that person because I guarantee they're already doing it to themselves mentally.
Yeah.
So it's just providing that environment. The key thing is that I need to remind myself that I'm constantly a walking mirror.
Yeah.
So I can't be telling people to do things and read things and go to the gym if I'm not doing those things myself.
Like,